Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast where we delve into the interplay of creativity, communication, and culture. Our guest for today is Mr. Vatsal Khajuria. He's a theatre performer and a playwright. Currently a master's student at Savitribai Phule Pune University, pursuing MSc in Media and Communication Studies. Welcome to the podcast, Vatsal.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So, you have performed in over 10 plays, starting from Shakespeare's classics to contemporary masterpieces. And beyond the stage, you have also written audio plays, which were aired on Prasar Bharati Maharashtra. And we are very excited to explore all of this with you. So, once again, welcome to the podcast. Welcome, viewers. So, to begin the podcast, let's have a look into your journey. So, I would like you to tell us about your journey into the world of theater and media and how you initially became interested in these two fields.
Honestly, it's a very funny story. Like it's a very embarrassing story also. That how I got into theater. So what had happened was that in ninth standard, in our school, our class was putting up a play called A Villa for Sale, right?
Uh-huh.
And all the casting for the entire play was done except for the male lead, and there was only one male character in the entire thing, in the entire play. So what had happened was that the day they did the auditions, they did the readings. Uh, I wasn't present that day. I came the next day and they asked me to read for the part. They asked me and a very close friend of mine to read for the part. I really wanted to do it because I don't know. It would be something nice. I always wanted to do theater. It intrigued me always. But before that, I hadn't done anything very openly, like anything performative very openly. But it did, I did want to perform. I knew that. So I did the reading. My friend did the reading, and my friend got the part. Right. And at that point of time, I didn't handle it very maturely. I was just 14. So I started to cry. And he felt so bad that he said, I give up, you do it. So I did it, and that just kind of clicked with people. Like everybody enjoyed what I did with that role. Everybody was laughing and all. Um, so yeah, from there, it just, you know, uh, that started my journey. After that, I did a few workshops. I started working with the professional theater groups, and yeah, so from there it was like, I'm interested in this, so I'll just keep on doing it. Let's see what happens. And till now, it's just this only. Let's see what happens.
Nice. Good story. We all love a story like this, drama and fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, since we said that you have dealt with a variety of roles from classic Shakespeare to Indian contemporary plays, so my next question would be, how do you approach preparing for these varied roles? Like, how do you do you position yourself differently for each role? There's a different mindset. And also, if you have a favorite performance or a favorite character in your mind, if you can tell us about that.
Honestly, I find this question to be very interesting because I've heard a lot of actors, I've read about a lot of actors who do a lot of preparation for their roles, right? And when I was doing theater, um, a lot of actors around me were also like, up, trying different techniques, approaching their roles with different mindsets. With me, honestly, I don't have a process. मैं बस अपनी लाइनें याद करता हूँ. I just remember my lines, and whatever the director tells me, whatever the brief is, I try to go as closely to that brief as possible. Because I believe that in theater, mostly, for that art form to work, the
Mm.
actor needs to be very, very much in sync with the director. And that is not true for film, because film can be manipulated. At the end of the day, the director can sit on the edit table, and if nothing works for him, he can just cut it. Right?
Yeah,
That's not how it works in theater. In
right,
theater, once you get up on stage and you do whatever you do, that is the final product.
right.
Right? So, I have seen in my experience, I had this one experience where we did a Hindi adaptation of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Right? And in there's a scene that has a lot of improvisations. All the actors, it's a very funny scene, and all the actors were asked to do a lot of improvisations. So when we were rehearsing the play, uh, the certain improvisations worked and certain improvisations did not work. Right? So the director cut accordingly. Uh, Now, what happened to the final product of the play was that the play is around an hour long, right? And this scene comes in the middle. And we realized after and the scene was like barely like 5-7 minutes. After 5-7 minutes, the scene did not end. It just kept on dragging on. They did all of the things that we asked them not to do, and the scene went on for 20 minutes. So
Wow.
who bears the questions for all of that? And people hated that scene. After a point, they just wanted to, watch the rest of the play.
Right.
But you can't go in the middle and ask them ki cut nahi wapas se karo.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to let it play, right?
Right.
So who takes responsibility? Then the director has to take the responsibility, even though it's not in their control,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So to act in theater, you have to be very much in sync with your director. If you don't respect your director and if you don't respect what they are asking of you, then you can't do theater. So
Right.
that's very important. So for me, it's always know your lines as soon as you are assigned a role. What
Mm.
is important is that the next day when you come to rehearse, you should know all your lines.
Right.
That's the most important part, because once you know all your lines, then you can start creating a character, then you can start building a character, right?
Mm.
That's when it starts, is after I know all my lines, after I know what my character is doing, how the character is speaking, how they are behaving, everything is in the script, right? Everything is given to you in the script, right? So I will learn all of my lines, and I will build a bit of character, right?
Right.
I will build some mannerisms, some way of speaking, right?
Right.
If that works with the director, good. If that doesn't work, the director tells me, see, this is not work. So I'm sorry, I'll give you an example. The last two plays I did were with Swatantra Theatre, where I acted. That was in 2021, so 2 years ago. Was the last time I acted in a play.
Mm.
So there I did two roles. One, the first play we did was called An Evening with Chekhov. So it was based on Anton Chekhov's short story. So it was
Mm.
an anthology, right?
Right.
So my character is of a 19-year-old boy
Mm.
who who is very who doesn't know how the world works. He's a very protected boy, and it's his 19th birthday, and his father is taking him to a red light area so that he can lose his virginity. That's the
Mm.
plot of the play, right? So in my mind, I am playing this very innocent
Right.
sort of character, this very shy, timid boy,
Right.
right? But what my director wants me to do is act childish, right?
Right.
My director asked me to behave like a child because we want to show that the boy is 19, but he has a mind of like a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old. And
Right.
that's the conflict of the play, that the father does not understand that. And
Ah,
by the end of the play, the father will understand that maybe my son needs a bit more time.
right. Right.
Right now, I
Interesting.
disagree with that interpretation as a person. As myself, I disagreed with that interpretation.
Hmm.
Right, for me, that was, I thought that was very caricaturous.
Hmm. Right.
But if I sit there and I argue no, then then the play doesn't happen. No?
Hmm.
The play has to happen,
Right.
right? And the second play that I did was called Taj Mahal Ka Tender.
Hmm.
Now, that play is a very interesting play. It's a, what do you call it? It's a satire on what if the Taj Mahal was made during like contemporary times.
Hmm. Right.
So it's about Shah Jahan trying to build the Taj Mahal, but there's so much bureaucracy that Shah Jahan dies, but the Taj Mahal does not get built.
Hmm. Wow.
So
Interesting.
उसमें, yeah, so in that play there's a montage where various characters
Hmm.
belonging to different government departments are coming to the chief engineer and they're asking for bribes,
Ah,
right? So
right.
now imagine that there are 5 6 officers that will come, and the the premise is the same, that everybody comes, demands a bribe, but not directly, in very indirect ways, in their own ways they will ask for a bribe, right? But the premise is the same. So after like 2 or 3 times, the audience also gets it.
Yeah.
So how do you make that interesting then? So each character needs to have some kind of quirk, right?
Right.
They have to be quirky enough so that the audience is more engaged with their quirks and they forget about the premise.
Hmm. Right.
Now I never thought like that. When I read the play, मेरे दिमाग में वो आई ही नहीं चीज.
Hmm.
But my director asked me, you will laugh as much as you can laugh. Enter the stage laughing, talk while you laugh, and you just don't have to stop laughing. That's your character, right? So I used to start laughing for the 6 7 minutes I was there on stage, and for 7 minutes I was just laughing, nothing else, right?
Interesting.
So you need to think of these things. What will engage the audience? What kind of audience? To do any form of art that you want to earn money from, you need to understand how the audience will react. You need
Right.
to understand what the sensibilities of the audiences are.
Hmm.
And depending on what you aim to do, you can either play for those or play against those.
Hmm.
Right? Mostly you play towards those tendencies, because if the audience is pleased, they will give you their money at the end of it.
Hmm.
Right? There are a lot less people in this world who will say that I will give you my money because you disagree with.
Ah,
Right? So to make any form of popular art or mass art, you need to understand the underlying subconscious of the audience.
okay. Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So just now we talked about direction and also performers and the relationship between performers and the director. So, as you are involved in writing as well as directing, and of course, we have just discussed you are a performer. So, how do you position yourself differently while taking these different hats of a director, of a writer, or a performer? So, just tell us more about that mindset or maybe thought process. And especially if
Hmm.
there was a certain play where you were both director and an actor or writer and an actor. Just tell me, how do you position yourself differently?
See, how do I position myself differently? Um, I think for that you need to have some kind of detachment towards the art form. So, in Buddhism, there's a concept of reasonable detachment, right?
Right.
Where you are connected to worldly things, but at the same time you acknowledge the fact that everything is temporary and perishable. That
Mm.
I will perish someday, the things that I'm using will perish, my loved ones will perish, and I have to bring that acceptance in me.
Mm.
Right. So that is something that I found that you need to practice with art, especially if you're doing multiple things or
Mm.
if you're doing art in any way. Because, see, you are going to, when you create something, you are going to put your heart and soul into it. And then if somebody rejects it, it feels very bad, right?
Right.
So you need to form some level of detachment.
Mm.
Once you form a level of detachment, you can see the thing for what it is, the art form for what it is. And then you can say, okay, I can approach the art form like this as an actor, like this as a director, like this as a writer. First, you need to strip the aura of the art form, first of all. You can't put it on a pedestal and, you know, then say, ki, okay, now I'll practice it. You need to mark it as equal. You need to become equal to it. That's a very, you need to undertake a democratic approach. Otherwise, you will not make good art. You might make art that is acceptable. You might make art that will make you lots of money. But till you are not that democratic in your approach, you will not make good art.
Mm.
So the way you can approach different roles is by first detaching yourself and then looking at it from another angle. Right. So when I'm looking at, for example, theater as an actor, right? When I look at theater as an actor, I have to think that I am not in the driver's seat right now. I'm
Mm.
not making this. It is not, most probably, it is not my vision. Whoever's vision it is, I need to accept that vision and I need to work with it.
Mm.
When I'm a director, I am thinking that I have to build this, I have to conceive this now.
Right.
Right? It's like it's like it's like raising a child. It, it's basically zero. From zero, however you are, whatever impressions you are putting on it, it will come out that
Mm.
right. So I have to think like a creator, that I'm creating, I am making something. So then everything has to be put into certain ways so that it satisfies my sensibility and how I am judging my audience's sensibility. Right? As a writer, I have to kind of do both. Writing is the difficult job in any kind of performing art, I would say, or in any kind of art where your work can be taken by another person and they will interpret it their way. So as a writer, you need to be even more detached. That anybody can take my work and anybody can, you know, make whatever they want of,
Right.
right? If tomorrow I write a play and I publish it, right? It's not in my control that if a theater group picks it up and makes it what however they like. Right? I'll give you an example, and this is from when I watched a play.
Okay.
So I remember there's a play by Vijay Tendulkar called Sakharam Binder.
Hmm.
Now, that play is about a man who's very abusive towards his wife,
Right.
and he falls in love with a prostitute, and he's very abusive towards the prostitute as well. And at the end uh, of the film, Sakharam and the prostitute end up killing his wife,
Mm.
right? So that, not end up killing his wife and him end up killing the prostitute,
Okay.
right? So that play is about how women are constricted in society, in
Hmm.
a marriage. Even when a woman is open sexually, there are certain ways of judgment that will come about,
Hmm.
right? When I was so towards the end of the play, there's a scene where basically Sakharam and his wife are thinking of where to hide the body,
Hmm.
right? And throughout that scene and throughout when they kill her, there were audiences in sitting there and they were cheering for the killing of the woman, because the sexually free woman, the woman who is the bad influence, has been killed in their mind. Right?
Hmm.
That's their thought process. But that's not the thought process of the playwright. That's not Vijay Tendulkar's thought
Hmm.
process. But that's the also the thought process of the theater group making.
Hmm.
That's why the audience has come to the conclusion. No,
Yeah.
it's because the way you have represented that woman, you have the way that woman is acting is by taking forward certain stereotypes about sexually active women,
Hmm.
prostitutes in popular media large.
Right.
That becomes problematic. But what can Vijay Tendulkar do about it? He's so not even alive anymore.
Yeah.
And his daughter, who owns the rights, got her royalty out of it.
Right.
Right. So as a writer, you have to be very detached then. Otherwise, if you are a writer and if you want to produce your own work, then you need to be connected with people who are in the same collaborative mindset.
Hmm.
If they are not, then your work can be interpreted in various ways, it can be acted out in various ways, and it can be perceived in various ways.
Yes.
There's a very interesting scholar that I like to go back to. His name is Roland Barthes.
Hmm.
Barthes wrote this very good article, 6, 7 page article called The Death of the Author,
Okay.
where he says that the version that the author presents to you, whatever his thought process is only one of the perspectives. There are multitude of perspectives that can come out of one interpretation of one work, and all of those perspectives are valid.
Right.
Then what do you choose? Where is the morality of it? Right? What is right? What is wrong?
Right.
What Barthes would say is that he would say that there are certain narratives which would become dominant, and there would be certain narratives which would be on the sidelines.
Hmm.
Now you will interpret the work in whatever way you will interpret it, and then it can go anywhere. So at that level, you need to maintain a certain level of detachment, knowing and being aware that my work can go either ways. So yeah, coming to your second question,
Hmm.
um, I have been I have never been an actor and a director in a play, because I feel like plays cannot work that way. I know a lot of people do it, And there are a lot of successful people who do it. Like, for example, Nasiruddin Shah directs his own plays and he acts in them
Hmm.
also. Uh, I recently also had the chance to see Amol Palekar. I don't know if you know his name. He was a very popular movie star in the
Yeah,
80s.
yeah, yeah. I have
He
heard.
does a solo show now, theater mein, that he's directed and he's written for it. Uh, the thing is, the problem that I have with acting and directing in the same play is that when you're acting, you don't get the audience's perspective, right? So
Hmm.
I've seen so many people mess up their plays just because they were acting and directing in them. So I feel like I'm so sorry. I feel like at a younger level, at a level where you have not had that experience of doing so much theater, you should not act and direct alone.
Right,
You should either act or direct.
right,
Because once you start doing both, you are massively underestimating how the audience is seeing your play versus how, when you stand on the stage, how it is looking from your perspective. Like that is a very, very massive misjudgment that I've seen 9 out of 10 people. So that is something that I generally disagree with. Unless you're a stalwart, then you have that mind, right? Then you have that perception that, you know, because you've seen 1,000 plays, you've acted in 1,000 plays, you've directed 1,000 plays.
right.
At that point of time, you know it's an instinct
Hmm.
how to walk on stage, how to ask people to walk on stage, how to look, where do you fill in the gaps, where does it not look awkward to the audience. All
Hmm.
those things then just become an instinct to you, no?
Right, right.
Then you can act, direct, write, do whatever you want to do.
Hmm.
But till you have not mm, had the skill or you've not developed the skill to do or to conceive in such a manner, I don't think you should act and direct. I have written and directed a lot of stuff.
Right,
Most of the sketches that I've done online, the short film that I made,
right,
that's written, directed, edited, all by me.
right.
But there are other people also involved. Most of those things are also in co-direction with someone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Uh, I also had a writing team. I remember when we did the mockumentary, we started it in September of 2020. The final product was released in January of 2021 or February of 2021. I don't remember.
Hmm.
So for the first 2 months, we were just sitting and writing.
Right.
There was a proper writer's room that we had established,
Oh, cool.
right, where 5, 6 people were coming. I was there, my co-director was there, and both of us were sitting through it like proper producers, listening to everything, giving feedback, uh, chiming in wherever we could. So honestly, that is a process in itself that took a month and a half, 2 months to write. Then we started doing auditions for different roles. Then we asked people to, because it was lockdown, so we asked people to record in their
Right.
own homes. We gave them the specifications, record it in landscape, 1080 to 30,
Hmm.
and just be loud, no fans in the background, so
Right.
that the audio is clear, right? So all of those things, then we did the auditions, then we went and we saw through the entire thing. And then we realized that some people were just not able to do it. So we sat with them, right? We sat with them and we sort of, were on a call with them when they were recording themselves. Right. I remember there was this one actor with whom I had to do a lot of acting exercises online because he had never acted. Right. So I had to spend separate time with him, do a bit of workshop just so he could get into the mood. And that is very, very important. I've realized that we do ask people to, when we create something, we expect that people will come prepared, but it is important to prepare them when they are on set. What I've realized through my experiences, and something that which I did not do but I've started to do, is that there is an importance of doing workshops before a project. I used to think, no, it's just a massive waste of time. But the fact that your team gets to know each other very well, the fact that you can work with the artists specifically before going on to shoot the particular project,
Right.
that gives you a lot of idea, that gives you a lot of sense into how the final product will turn.
Right. Mm.
Right. So there are certain things that I learned, there are certain things that I have unlearned through the entire process. But yeah, I would still hold on to the perspective for myself and for a lot of young people who do theater, that do not act and direct till you have had a considerable amount of experience.
Mm.
I
Interesting
would say
perspective.
at least 10 to 12 years you need to give it to the craft.
Yeah, many would not like to hear this, but there is truth to it. Yeah, and
In my
since you,
experience, I mean, some people might be geniuses, you never.
yeah, that is also true. Yeah, so since you brought up mockumentary and you also talked about how you participated in editing and directing and as well as writing. So this direction of filming. So I want to know what led you to this format of creating content and the technical aspect. Like you gave us a little bit of it just now, but the a little more in-depth technical aspect of writing, directing, and editing of the mockumentary. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be very honest here. I hate editing. It's the most tedious thing ever that I have ever had to do in my life. And there are a lot of people who enjoy editing, honestly.
Yeah, I am not one.
They,
I am
yeah,
not
yeah,
one of them.
same, same. Can't happen. It is very tedious, and it is very tiring. I edited because the guy who was going to edit our film just stopped replying to us.
My God.
He just ghosted us, so I had to sit and edit myself. If I'm not sitting and editing, uh then the product doesn't get out. And I
Mm.
was forced into it. My co-director sort of just kept on saying, no, we have to edit, we have to edit, we have to edit. And that's when I was like, okay, fine, I'll sit on the edit table and I'll look at the, right.
My
So we
God.
divided parts, right? Some
Right.
part of the mockumentary I have edited, some part she has edited, and then
Hmm.
we brought it all together. Apart from that, yeah, honestly, whatever I've written, I've directed, they are just ideas that cropped up in my head, right? So I was like, okay, let's write this down, let's get a few people. I don't like to write in isolation, honestly. That's why that's also a reason why I haven't been making anything for the last 2 years.
Oh,
I like to write in collaboration. I feel like ideas that come individually are incomplete. They might give you a good start, but I need to have somebody else on board, some people on board, just to give me few fresh perspectives.
Right.
I feel like that's what makes a good product is good, honest collaboration between people.
Mm.
So I haven't been able to find people to collaborate with in the last 2 years. That's why I haven't created anything or much of significance. Um, but apart from that, I remember mockumentary started as an idea to um, it started as an idea to rebel against our institution.
Mhm.
There were a few of us who just absolutely hated the idea
Mhm.
and who didn't weren't very fond of the institution and how the administration of the institution worked, how the professors behaved, what kind of student culture was there.
Mhm.
Uh, so we just thought, okay, fine, we'll make something out of it.
Mhm.
Let's try to create,
Mhm.
right? So that's what the idea started off with. Uh, and the format actually was so I remember I had just recently um, you know ended watching what is that Office
Yeah.
and this other thing, Borat.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I want to do something like this. I want to make something like this
Mhm.
where you feel like it's real life and you are observing people in their
Yeah.
natural habitat. So if you go and watch the mockumentary, I've written the opening lines. I had given the brief that write it like you're writing a nature documentary, right? So they narrate it that way. They give an introduction of the location, then they talk about the institution like it's some kind of a living organism. They're
Right.
talking about the different students like we are looking at them like animals,
Mm.
right? Like you watch on Animal Planet or National Geographic,
Right. Right.
right? The पीछे से narrator बोलते रहता है कुछ और तुम सामने बस देख रहे हो जानवरों को.
Yeah.
That was the first idea, and then I was like कि, but if we only do this it becomes boring, so you need to break it.
Right.
How do we break it? We break it by having different scenes where we can tackle certain specific instances, right? We came up with different instances like there's a instance of a final year student on his deathbed trying to finish his dissertation, right? And we took that reference out of that Mera Naam Mukesh had, and we shot it like that. So that role I did. That was supposed to be done by someone else, but he just could not act.
Huh.
So we had to cut him out. We profusely apologized. He was on the writing team as well.
Mm.
So he was a good sport about it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that wasn't working out, so I did that role
Mm.
completely. So we broke it into different segments then. Well, like, okay, there'll be an overarching theme of nature documentary, but we'll also cut into various segments so that it doesn't get boring, so that the format breaks.
Right.
Right? So there's one format where a student is talking to the camera like The Office, or
Mm.
like in Modern Family when they sit and they talk to the camera. Right? There's one like that, one bit like that, one bit where somebody is dying, one bit where there's a recurring joke. So in our college, we used to have a table tennis table, but we never had rackets and balls. They were never available to us. There was just a table tennis table. बच्चे घर से अपने रैकेट और बॉल ला के खेलते थे उस पे.
Oh.
And then they became public. Like there was some a senior of ours who left his table tennis racket and balls and graduated and left them to us. Hey, you guys play. This is my donation. So there's a recurring joke we put in where there's this one guy who's going like, table tennis rackets kahan hai? And then he just randomly enters every three scenes and he's finding something.
Nice.
Right. So you need to think of how you can first you need to think of a form, and then you need to think that how can we break that form. Right. Because once you break something, once you sort of, let the audience snap out of the experience for a moment,
Hmm.
that is very important.
Right.
That lapse where the audience knows that okay, it's cut now, okay, something broke, this is not, that sort of demands the audience to pay attention. Right. That's opposite of what popular cinema does.
Hmm.
Popular cinema wants you to immerse. It wants you to be consumed and consume the film itself.
Yeah.
Right. So it will make sure that your experience is as smooth, as immersive as possible.
Right.
Right. That you feel like you are a part of it.
Hmm.
That the cinema has to become your escapism.
Yeah.
The literature has to become something you escape. That doesn't orient to you to think about it critically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It orients you to accept it. Right. That is something that I did not want to do. So how do you then you ask yourself certain fundamental questions. Now then how do I make it not that?
Right.
So there are different methods to it. There's a lot of theory written on it, right?
Right.
Uh,
Definitely.
so you need to think about those things. You need to get those references. You need to think of how will I break it? How will I break it? Like one very good example of this is AIB when they were making sketches. Their sketches used to. I remember they've done this honest bars and restaurants, right? Where the format is there are different small skits in the entire sketch where different kind of bar and restaurant experiences are happening. There's a bit in it where two flies are conversing.
Okay.
Why is it there? What is the point of two flies conversing there? So it's a pointless conversation between two flies sitting on a bar ka countertop. But that sort of breaks you away from the aura of the comedy then.
Right.
Right? Even though the conversation is funny, you will find it odd that why am I watching दो मक्खी मेरी screen पे क्यों बैठी हैं और बात कर रही हैं. Right? So that snaps you out of it and then you start to reflect. So that is very important to do. I feel like you need to break the form. If you play with the form and only with the form, you might be able to create something magnificent. But you need to ask the question then that whatever magnificence that I've created, does it contribute to certain kind of a discourse?
Hmm.
Does it contribute to people thinking critically about not only the narrative I've presented, but also the medium in which I've presented it? Those are very important questions, I believe. So
Yeah.
I always try to think of ways where we can, sort of try to make people think,
Hmm. Hmm.
try to make people question ki, okay, why did you do it this way? Why did why is it that this particular character comes in right now?
Right.
And why do I feel Why do I feel the need to acknowledge this character's presence, even though I was a minute before that just mindlessly consumed,
Right.
right?
Right. And I
So those
think
are
this is
important.
the harder part of it all. Like we spend so much
Absolutely it is.
time, we spend so much time mastering the form. We rarely ever think of breaking the form and playing it in another way.
See, for you to be able to break the form well, you need to understand the form.
Right. True.
So only those people can break the form who actually understand form in itself. So why Picasso only works because Picasso was also a great, he was a very good specialist of realistic art,
Right.
right? Picasso learned how to draw realistically for him to be, you know, then break that form and then say, ki, okay, what if we open a cup? Or what if we open everything?
Right.
What would that world look like?
True.
Yeah, so those questions can only come in your mind, and you can get those questions across to the audience only when you understand the form well. And there are a lot of artists, lot of filmmakers, lot of writers who are capable of doing that and who have been doing that very master, right? So it that is the important. I completely agree with you. That is the difficult part, and that is the difficult part because you have to first master the form itself. You need to first understand it inside.
So talking about the forms and going on the same tangent, so you have also written audio plays that were aired. So how is it different and difficult relatively with writing for stage than writing for audio? The audio plays.
Um, so I guess writing for stage and writing audio is something that I haven't tackled. Like I haven't thought of this question a lot
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, I was given when I wrote those audio plays, I was given certain parameters.
Okay.
I was asked to write about certain things, right? I was asked to write about uh, the dairy industry, opportunities in dairy industry. I was asked to write two plays, and also again, I did not write them alone. I wrote them in collaboration with other people, and it was actually a friend
Mhm.
who had some connections with an NGO
Okay.
who wanted to produce this content,
Right.
and then that NGO had a tie-up with Prasar Bharati, right? So uh, the brief that was given to me for the first uh, audio play was that uh, there was some disease that was spread in Maharashtra in the cattle at that point of time, and the government had come up with vaccinations for the cattle for the prevention of the disease.
Hmm.
So to promote that, I had to write an audio.
Okay. Okay.
I was given this brief, and the second brief that I was given is that we need to have a main character, have a rational lead character who provides a solution that can be reused again in future content, right? So I wrote that accordingly. The second one that came was they had asked me to basically write on uh, basically write a play on promoting people should buy more cattle and start dairy farm because that's a very good economic supplement to agriculture. Like if you have your own dairy farm along with your own जो भी आप agriculture कर रहे हो, then that can supplement the income and you can pay off any loans and whatnot. So that
Right.
was the brief that was given.
Hmm.
And they had now for the second one, they had said make it funny.
Mhm.
It should be enjoyable. It should not feel like an ad
Right, right.
that we are asking people to do something,
Mm.
right? It should be a funny skit जिसका eventual outcome होता है कि the dairy farming is promoted,
Right. Mm.
right? So I was working in very strict parameters.
Right.
So right, I just wrote then you just see these parameters are also not very difficult to write in the sense that the premises are mostly given. Like from whatever brief you get, you can make up a premise. Right? Like for the first one, I remember for the cow disease one, the premise was simple. We had written uh, for that in a village there's this disease has spread, and now people don't know what to do. So they go to the only person who's educated is the master G from the school. So they ask the master G what to do. The master G also doesn't know, so she calls someone from the NGO, right? And that person comes to the village to visit, and he diagnoses the disease and he gives a solution and all, right?
Right, right.
But for the second one, they're saying make it funny.
Yeah.
So what do I do? I write a script where there are this bunch of parents who are uh, who become very frustrated with their son because their son doesn't do anything. He's basically he just basically sleeps around all day. So I you can make a funny conversation around that to open. And then they take him to a Baba, and that Baba does some fortune reading, and tells him that he'll be a very big poultry farm, or he'll be a very big dairy farmer. So buy him cattle. So they buy him cattle, and then he becomes a very successful dairy farmer.
Introduced the fun element and also made it more relatable.
Exactly. So you have to then whatever the brief is, I wrote according to that. But honestly, if I have to say that what is the major difference between an audio platform and sort of this stage or video, because since I worked with Pocket FM also, and they've completely deal in audio series.
Right.
So I've noticed that in the audio form, it's like reading a book. You can write something out of this world and not worry कि इसमें मेरे लाखों करोड़ों रुपए खर्च हो सकते हैं.
Hmm.
That's the fundamental difference, is that in the audio format, I can write whatever I want to.
Okay.
But when I'm writing for theater, when I'm writing for stage, I have to think, is it feasible to do this?
Right.
I remember I wrote a play, and the in the play I had put a live band. शादियों में बैंड होते हैं ना.
Yeah, yeah,
I had written that there should be a live band.
yeah.
Where do you get the live band from? Do you have the money to hire a band?
Yeah.
But then the band members also have dialogues. So now I need to find actors who can play those particular instruments and also take dialogues. How feasible is that? Those questions you need to tackle before you write something and then you want to produce it.
Cool. So I have one last question for you. So as a fellow writer, and I know a lot of our viewers will be budding writers and tackling with different art forms. So, any advice or learning or unlearning that you have had in your journey, since you also are a young writer, performer, artist? So, anything that you can say to our viewers that you would have appreciated if someone had told you while you were on the journey? I mean, you're still on the journey, but still.
Honestly, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I don't think I am in a position right now to say, or tell someone that, you should do this or you shouldn't do this. But I will share there certain things that I have learned
Yeah.
through my journey. I think
Right.
uh, I will say that, and then you guys can take it forward however you want to.
Sure.
Uh, One thing that I've learned specifically about writing is that writing involves knowing your audience a lot.
Hmm.
A lot of times, what happens is that you're budding with a lot of ideas, and then you just, you know, shoot कि ये भी कर सकते हैं, ये भी कर सकते हैं, ये भी कर सकते हैं. कितनी पॉसिबिलिटी है ये सब करने की, वो पहले अपने प्रोड्यूसर से जाके नो दैट, नो whoever is directing, whoever is producing, you should ask them कि इज इट फीजिबल, क्योंकि मैं लिख दूंगा कल को कि स्पेसशिप आ रही है, स्पेसशिप कैसे बनाओगे तुम.
Yeah.
यूट्यूब स्केच के लिए मैं लिख दूं यूट्यूब पे टीवीएफ स्केच बना रहे, स्पेसशिप आ रही है, टीवीएफ स्पेसशिप कहाँ से बनाएगा, क्या उनके पास बजट है बनाने का. तो दोज आर द क्वेश्चंस यू नीड टू आस्क, राइट.
Right.
कि कि राइटिंग में इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट टू राइट फॉर द सिनेरियो एंड राइट फॉर द ऑडियंस. द
Hmm.
सिनेरियो एज ए नॉट इन द स्टोरी सिनेरियो, what you are in the real world, what position you are in as a writer, you should write according to that. If you are writing for someone,
Hmm.
that is, or if you're writing for something. If you're writing on your own, then write whatever, yeah, whatever makes you happy, right? If you're not writing it for performance, if you're writing it purely for the purposes of literature, right, then write whatever. I can't comment on that because I've never written for literature.
Hmm.
I've only written for performance.
Right.
So I can only comment on that. Other than that, in terms of performance, one thing that I've learned is that, and I think this works every way, is that everybody around you comes and gives you suggestions.
Hmm.
When you're in a group setting, there are 5, 6 people, 10 people, 15 people around you. You find the fact that the amount of people that are coming and telling you to do things in different ways can get very overwhelming.
Hmm.
So, what you need to keep in mind there is that your whatever your director and producer says is gold.
Hmm.
Follow that. Whatever anybody else says, no matter how senior they are to you, no matter how many years they've spent learning this, doesn't matter. Right? You're not working for them, you're not working to impress them. You're
Hmm.
working to put on a particular thing for audiences to watch. And you should then perform it through to its honesty. Right? Whatever vision that is asked of you to present, you should present that vision honestly.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
we
guess those
often,
are quite a few learnings that I've had.
yeah, because I can relate to that. So many times we get lost into, oh, what will this person think? Or this person said that it should be like this. And following that train of thought, you just lose your own original idea and it becomes something
Exactly.
else. Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. I'm not saying don't listen to people or not take criticism, but know where to draw the line.
Yeah, true.
Know
Thank you.
where, yeah.
Yeah, no, continue, continue.
No, I was just saying that know where, where, uh, your artistic honesty ends.
Hmm.
You should know the limit of that. And you should, play around in the limit of your artistic honesty. I feel that.
Yeah. I'll quote it, I'll note it down. Artistic honesty. And look at it
Yeah.
every time I write something. Thank you so much, Vatsal. It was
Thank you.
lovely talking to you and going deep into a performer's mind and the writer's mind, looking at it in so many different angles. It was lovely having this podcast with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to all the viewers.
Thank you. It was lovely being here.